what is your name and how old are you?
So, Rhys Prigmore, and I'm 22.
What type of powerlifter are you?
I'm an amateur, under 90 kilos, junior powerlifter.
When did you start lifting, both for fun and in competitions?
I started lifting for fun about 4 years ago. Just normal training, you know, probably more of a bodybuilder kind of split. And then I went over to the more power building and then actually started competing around about 2 years ago in June.
What was your proudest achievement?
So my proudest achievement was probably back in powerlifting games in October. You know, that's the ABPU competition, first national level competition, where I managed to secure an invitation to both my European and British competition in June and July, and as well as taking home the British Best Lifter Award.
And can you explain what the Best Lifter Award was?
So the Best Lifter Award was for the best lifter of the day. It's done by dots, basically, so they take into loads of things into account. So stuff like body weight, your age, weight class, how much you're lifting, and yeah, we've got a really cool dagger for it, so come away well chuffed.
And what are the challenges you faced leading up to competitions?
I'd say one of the main challenges is just the mental side of it, because obviously when you're increasing all of your weight, increasing your intensity of your sessions, you know, it can get a bit fatiguing, and if the sessions don't go your way, you miss a lift, it can play a lot on your mind. So that can really kind of set you back for your prep.
And what about during competitions?
So during, especially on the weekends, is making weight, is just that mental side of you wanting to hit weight, you're wanting to make sure that you've got everything you need for the comp, you know, you're feeling good, you're not feeling fatigued, and you feel rested and you feel ready to go.
And what about post-comp?
Post-comp is just the part where you're feeling fatigued, you know, your body's taking a battering, it's on a high workload, and yeah, it's just feeling a bit finished. So it's just mentally trying to train yourself to make sure it's a good thing to take that kind of week off after comp, you know.
And you've just had a session right now. How was it?
Yeah, so it was last week of a deload, last session of a deload, sorry, and it didn't feel too bad. Obviously, we've just come off of a really heavy volume block before we lead into a strength block before we start peaking, and it's well needed, definitely. So I didn't feel too bad. Some nice light squats today.
And how do you find the deload week, sort of mentally?
Mentally, you know, now because where I am in my training, I know it's needed, you know, but beforehand it could take a bit of a toll because you are tracking stuff back a little bit, you know, you're not doing as heavy weights, you know, you're not having as high intensity, so if you was a bit less experienced, you might feel like you're not working as hard.
And do you make any sacrifices for the sport?
Yeah, I'd say the main sacrifices you make for the sport, especially leading up for a competition, is just the social aspect of it, you know, and the nutritional side of it, whereas you can't really be having the foods that you really want to be eating, or you can't really be going out with your friends, you know, on the weekends and going out for meals, especially when you were in the last couple of weeks of prep. You know, you've got to make them sacrifices. You can't be going out, you can't be eating what you want, you'll be watching your weight, getting your sleep in.
And do you find it difficult to stay in your weight class for a competition, like pre-comp?
I can do, especially now, obviously in my off seasons. If I have got a long off season, I do tend to put on a good bit of size, just so I've got that extra bit of, you know, energy. I can hit my sessions with that slight bit of like higher intensity. But when it comes to cutting again, it can make it a bit challenging to make sure I'm in them weight categories.
And have you had to do anything drastic to make weight?
So I think the main drastic thing is just being really strict with what you're eating.
Welcome to this moment of mindful meditation by Arc Living.
What is going on?
Meditation is meant for peace. stress, anxiety.
Wait, one sec. Shut that, stop that. Sound, okay. What is going on? Right.
Question, William. Have you had to do anything drastic to make weight?
So I think the main one thing I've had to do is my nutritional side of things. So where I'm having to then change from what I want to be eating, you know, so, and then especially at work, you know, I'll be having just plain chicken, plain rice, or really tracking back them carbs, tracking back what are, you know, them saturated foods, to just, especially the last couple of weeks, you know, if I'm a couple kilos off, I've got to really sacrifice a lot of food, a lot of salt, a lot of fats.
And how do you find the nutritional side of the sport?
It has its pros and cons, you know. So in your off seasons, when you can be putting the size on, and you can be eating a good amount of food, it can be good. But obviously, it has its challenges to where you're not wanting to put on too much because you're not wanting to cut too much. So it's just trying to find that sweet spot, that nice balance in between.
So, what is your biggest regret?
I'd say biggest regret was probably just not taking it as seriously as I could have done at the start, you know. Where now, obviously, I'm leading up from a first European competition. I'm taking out my sleep properly. I'm making sure that's checked off. I'm making sure my nutrition's checked off, my training's checked off. Whereas before, it was sort of, I was coming in, I was doing my stuff, I was doing my programs, but the nutritional side of it and my sleeping side of it, I wasn't really taking care of.
Do you think that had an effect on what you could lift?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, especially in the nutrition and the sleep side of it, you know, I think maybe if I would have taken it a bit more seriously, you know, focused on it a bit more, then the last couple comps where I might have feeling a bit fatigued towards the end of the competitions, I might not have. But again, it's in the past. Nothing I can do now.
And do you find the off-season challenging, like mentally?
Yes, it can be. It can be, because especially from the last couple weeks, you know, from your prep leading up to a competition, it's heavyweight. You're excited. You've got a comp looking forward to. Whereas after a comp, you've not got a lot to look forward to. So mentally, it can be hard to sort of motivate yourself to come in and hit them sessions with the same intensity.
And how do you motivate yourself?
I'd motivate myself by just, you know, having a good support system around me, you know, knowing that I have got another comp in the future, you know, knowing that even though I've not got a comp coming up now, these sessions still matter. You know, that these sessions now are just as important as the ones leading up to a competition.
And how good is your support system?
I'll say I've got a very good support system around me, luckily. You know, that's something that I will never claim to be, you know, self-made. You know, I've got good friends around me, good family around me, that are always pushing me, motivating me to actually make sure that I'm 110%.
Have you ever had to take a break away from the sport?
I'd say when I'm having to take a break away from the sport is that week after comp. You know, that week or so after comp where you're feeling battered and you're not really wanting to train, and mentally I think you've got to really tell yourself that it's okay to take that week off, you know, just to actually give yourself that time just to recover. And
just a last question, what is one thing that you've learned from either a mistake or, like you said, the regret that you could pass on to an up-and-coming lifter? What would it be?
I'd probably say it's not that serious. You know, I get, you know, you wanted to train, especially when you've got big competitions coming up, but life gets in the way sometimes, and it's good to just take time to yourself and actually make sure that you're good outside of training, so then when you come into training, you're in a good headspace.